Representative Christiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the panel for being here today.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chancellor, you described the PASHE system earlier as high quality, but a recent news report indicates that one PASHE university accepts 99% of its applicants, yet only 29% of that school 29% of that school's students graduate in 4 years, and that school graduates 49% of their students in 6 years. Your provided information on Appendix B4 suggests that that school is not an outlier, that this is a system-wide problem. Is that high quality? Are those statistics, do they represent high quality, Mr. Chancellor?
Yes, the two are not mutually exclusive. It is possible to offer a high-quality educational experience and yet at the same time, sadly, bump up against the open enrollment mentality that says the more students we have, the more money we get. That is sort of one of the big problems that higher education faces today. We're not just accidentally having a conversation about declining enrollment, because the declining enrollment is tied to less revenue. And what Edinburgh has finally announced with their new president, and rightfully so, is whatever the number of students that we believe are qualified to be in our university, that's the number of students we need to organize around and stop taking anyone who applies to the institution. And there's a balancing act there. You don't want to slam the door on people who might have a shot, have the potential to have a shot, but saying we accepted 99% of those who applied, you better start asking yourself, unless you're Oxford, you better start asking yourself the question, are the students we're taking in qualified to be here?
Are you prepared to make those changes across the system? Because the system-wide has accepted has had a 40% increase in enrollment since 2001, yet there's only been an increase of 11% for the degrees that are awarded. So I appreciate that school's reactive answer to these statistics, but from a system-wide approach, will you incorporate that to all the PASHE schools?
We have actually created a new tool called the Financial Risk Assessment that is profiled, same template, but for each university. It covers an array of critical issues about that university and its stability. One of those is just this issue, looking at the student population in terms of SAT, ACT, rank in class from high school, a whole variety of those things. And we're now able to identify not just the general enrollment, which has been a problem in the past, but also the qualifications of the students that are there. And shouldn't surprise you, and I'm sure it doesn't. You can actually see other metrics impacted when a university begins to take in more students with lesser qualifications to be there. Okay. And it impacts everything from graduation rates to retention rates to time to degree issues, et cetera. So yes, sir, we have tackled or are tackling that issue in a big way.
And would you agree that when a student realizes in years 4, 5, and 6 that he or she is incapable of obtaining their degree, do you agree that represents the difficult reality that we have failed that student, their families, the taxpayer, the Commonwealth as a whole, when 50% of students are incapable of receiving their degree?
Yeah, it always depends on why the student hasn't acquired a degree within that period of time. But again, our primary motivation ought to be, how can we guarantee it is possible to graduate in 4 or 5 years and make sure we're not the problem? And that is high on the priority list in terms of how we're organized around students.
And then hopefully in the future we can have a discussion also about other ways on the front end to ensure that applicants are more prepared for success, academic success, when they get to college, or encourage them to find an alternative job training opportunity rather than just college. And I know your previous time as the lieutenant governor, I believe, for
Yes, sir.
For a governor who was very much involved in the K through 12 education. I would welcome the opportunity to talk to you about ways we can better prepare students for college or identify other opportunities.
Love to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And by the way, as I close out on that one, I would love to see, and we're working on this, a much tighter collaboration between community colleges in Pennsylvania and our state university system, because it should be both affordable at a community college, accessible to the coursework, and that should plug automatically into their continued search for a baccalaureate degree. That's a market that still has tremendous potential that I think is still somewhat untapped in our state.
I can't see the light, but one technical question that either you could address now or later.
It's over. My apologies, but I have to.
I'll submit the question. It
Thank
should
you,
be easy to
Representative.
answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative.